Now been joined by Matt Tiffft, driver of the number 18 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And Matt, it's great to see you this morning. We're glad to have you here at Bristol Motor Speedway, and we'll turn it over to you to give us a little bit of an update and an outlook on the rest of the season.
All right. Well, it's great to see everybody. I can't tell you how much I've missed being at the racetrack. I think it's been since June, and I don't know if I've ever stayed away from a racetrack that long. So, but I know there's been a few updates along the way, but I just figured it'd be a great opportunity to come out and update everybody here. So I guess first of all, just going back to exactly what happened. So I was diagnosed with a low-grade, grade 2 diffuse astrocytoma or glioma, which is a slow-growing brain tumor. It was a benign brain tumor, and this was something that we just couldn't mess with. We didn't want to wait around. This is something that it hadn't taken on a cancerous form or a dangerous form yet, but in the future it very well could have. So on July 1st, I had a craniotomy. So I got this nice scar over here now, but it was a successful surgery. They got as much as they could out. And with these things, the way they best describe it is it's a wet cotton ball in like in a cup of water, basically. So they can pull out as much as they can, but there's always going to be a couple strands left in there. So, that's just one of the risks that they know. But they were able to go in and actually do a fairly aggressive surgery and get the most out as possible. For a couple weeks, it was just kind of rough getting off the anesthesia and all that stuff. But, one of the most shocking things to me was apparently with a brain tumor, one of the biggest symptoms is your loss of smell. And so I came down the stairs, I think the Monday after I had a surgery, and my mom was washing something with Murphy's oil, and I guess I couldn't smell things for years, and like it just hit me and made me nauseous, and all of a sudden I just started smelling everything. It was like, my goodness, I can't believe this. But my sense of smell is like back incredibly, so that's been kind of cool. But just one of those things you wouldn't really recognize normally unless you had that. Or until we figured out that it was a brain tumor. That was one of the symptoms. So part of the recovery process was just trying to get back to a normal state of mind. So the first couple weeks getting back, every day I could do like 30 minutes more of activity without getting too wore out. And one of the most fascinating things I thought for the surgery was that they had to take a flap, and basically the jaw muscle over here was stretched out. So the most painful part was actually just the jaw, because your brain actually doesn't feel the pain in there like you would think it would. What I would figure out, though, is every day when I had new experiences and going to the mall, walking around, just things that you think are just so normal to everybody, all of a sudden those things were stressful situations that you could just tell what effect just everyday normal things had on your brain. So it's just fascinating getting to learn about that. And every day got stronger and better, and to the point where I was able to start driving a streetcar again and get back to normal life, basically. So after that, I was able to get back to a normal physical activity level. And what we did then was, after the surgery, after we felt it had healed enough, we did a 5-day EEG study, which so before and after the surgery, we wanted to make sure that there was no chance of seizures whatsoever. And this is obviously out of respect for everybody with competition, making sure everybody's safe, and for myself being out on the track as well, just because of the nature of what we do is obviously a high-pressure situation. So proved both times that there's no evidence of seizures whatsoever, so that was a huge step in the recovery process, and ultimately to show that it was a successful surgery, and that my brain was functioning at a healthy and safe level. One of the great things was that we had two sets of doctors from Duke and UCSF come back and tell us that as far as treatment for this tumor, they actually felt like because it was a slow-growing, low-grade tumor, that I actually will not have to undergo any treatment. So that's the best news out of all of this. And they feel like if we can do MRI monitoring about every 8 weeks, at least for a while, and then they'll back it down to 3 months, and then slow it down from there. But just keep an eye on it. This is something that can grow back, just the nature of the genetics of this type of tumor. But obviously that's a huge step that I didn't have to undergo any treatment, and that was great news to hear that. Moving on from that, in the last week, obviously sitting out of a race car for a while is tough. I'm not going to play that down at all. I've missed it a ton. But from my doctors this week, they feel that I am at a point now where I can start to work back to going back to racing. So actually this weekend on Sunday at Hickory, I'm going to go test a late model and start to get back in the seat. So I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. So, obviously it's been a couple months since I've been in the car, and in that time, I just really want to thank everybody from Joe Gibbs Racing and Red Horse Racing for working with me, and Steve D'Souza and Chris Gale, and all those guys over there. I can't tell you how great they've been through the whole process and understanding everything. And everybody that's filled in as well, from Sam Harness Jr. and Owen Kelly, Dakota Armstrong, and Kyle. It's it's not easy when you have something like this to work out the logistics of it. So those guys have been great in working with us and our partners. We've got some great partners with Tunity TV and Bring Gear and Surface Sunscreen. Just some really cool companies that have worked with us through this whole process and have been willing to work with other drivers coming in the seat. So at this time, if you have any questions, feel free.
Right. We'll start with Jim Utter.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. Good to see you back, bud. During this whole time, did you ever kind of think about maybe not working back to racing or just pursuing something else, or has that always kind of been your goal from the get-go?
No, my goal from the get-go is to get back in a race car. Honestly, if you look back at the video updates and stuff I did, the reason I was able to stay so positive and so driven during this whole time was that one goal of getting back in a car.
All right, we'll go Jeff, Bob, and Dustin.
Jeff Buck from USA Today. Matt, you have incredible poise, and your updates have all been very positive, but it's had to be scary for you, I'm sure, at points in the process. What was that level of fear like, and how did you deal with all that was going on and try to keep a positive attitude about it?
Yeah, of course, I probably came off as positive as much as I could, but the fact is that it's a very scary and a very real thing to go through. I lost my step-grandma to a brain tumor, so I was very familiar with it. I had a really great support group with my family and my girlfriend. Just getting through the whole thing it's not something I would ever, well, the great news was that it was something that we caught very early. So the whole time, just realizing that it could be a whole lot worse was, just keeping that in the back of my mind, because I started working with the American Brain Tumor Association, and some of the folks from over there, they were so helpful with giving me resources and everything. But I thought one of the most fascinating things going through this whole process was just going through social media, people sharing their stories and their kids' stories and everything like that. It really puts things in perspective, and I think sometimes we get lost in this world of NASCAR that, sometimes we get trapped in a bubble a little bit with that, and you get hit with something like this, and it's shocking, but then you realize with other people, man, there's a whole lot more that could be going wrong, and it just makes you appreciate things a lot more.
All right, Bob, go ahead.
Bob Hawker, ESPN. What would be the steps after Hickory? What do you need to see, or what do doctors or the team needs to see from you to potentially get back to actual racing?
Well, I think first things first, just going to go and do the test on Sunday and see how everything goes. The most curious thing to me is just seeing what my level of stamina is compared to the past, because it's been so long since I've been in a car. I don't know what the exact steps are going to be, but I think the biggest thing is just to get back going and get back reoriented in a race car.
Right. Dustin, go ahead.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Matt, what does somebody think about when they're in the hospital at night alone?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What does somebody think about when they're in the hospital alone at night?
Man, I don't know. It's you have different thoughts when you're there. Luckily, I was able to get cleared pretty quickly back home. So my surgery was on July 1st, which was, I believe, a Friday night. And I was cleared back actually almost 24 hours later. So the doctors gave me a checklist to go through to get cleared back. They thought I was going to go back home on Monday. I went back home Saturday night. I remember waking up that night in the ICU, and I think the Xfinity race was actually on. Daytona was playing in my room there. So I remember waking up and seeing just a little bit of the race and then kind of going back to sleep. But in the beginning, it was definitely your body has been through so much when you literally take out part of your brain. I mean, it's just your body's chemistry is all changed, really. So, in the beginning, I was very driven to get back home. But then as soon as I got back home, you get that realization of, okay, this is not going to be tomorrow I'm going to be okay. This is going to take some time. And in the beginning, that took a while to really understand that. So, I mean, there's definitely some times where you're bummed out. You're like, I just want things to go back to normal, But then, you just got to keep telling yourself that you got to do everything necessary and push yourself to get back to that point.
All right, we're going to go to Jeff next.
Matt, you were talking about watching that race or seeing the race on TV at Daytona. Did you find easy to watch the races? Is that something you wanted to do, or was it tough to watch the race someone else in your car there?
It was tough. And I think in that race, I believe we had David Reagan in the car. You never want to see, one of the oddest things for me was, seeing your name on the door plate there and you're not in it. It's bizarre. But I think it made it easier knowing that I had the support of the team and support of everybody to get back in. You never want to get to that point, I think, in any sport where you feel like they're taking your job. But when you go through something like this, it's just, hopefully years down the road, I look back at this and this is just a little speed bump in a long career, and it's just great that we caught it when we did. So, but yeah, that's never an easy situation.
All right, we're going to go Chris, Hunter, and then up front to Jessica.
ChrisKnightGetchmans.com. Great to see you back, Matt. Who's going to be at the test on Sunday? Who are you testing with? Is it your family team, or are you driving for Kyle Busch's late model team? What are the scenarios? Are you going to test it with anybody, or are you going to be by yourself? And will you consider maybe running a late model race before you come back to NASCAR?
Well, so the team we're going with is a team I knew from back when I did some late model racing in Florida. So I think it'll be a pretty low pressure environment. I think for myself, what I want to see is short run speed, how well I'm able to adapt with tire fall off. The normal stuff you go through, but just how quickly I can adapt and feel the car again, just with handling characteristics and all that. Just trying to, make sure that I'm totally good to go with that. But definitely long runs and trying to run as many laps as possible to get a whole fatiguing day to at the end go, okay, this is equivalent to what a race day would be. I think that we've definitely looked at, if possible, doing races before getting back in, but we just got to get through this test on Sunday, and I'm really looking forward to it. But the big thing is just getting in the heat. Obviously, it's been so hot lately. It's a great test for that, and being fatigued in the car and still driving, seeing what that's like. I've pushed myself in the gym, honestly, probably harder than I ever did before this happened, and just for that time when I do get in the car, I can hopefully be at that level, if not a little bit better than where I was at before.
All right, go ahead, Hunter.
Hey, Hunter Thomas with thefourthturn.com. Chris Knight actually asked my question. So I'll just ask you, what do you think your emotions are going to be whenever you finally strap into that late model and get up to speed?
I think I'll be smiling from ear to ear. No, I can't tell you how excited I am to strap back in the seat. It'll be a really great feeling.
All right, we'll take our final question. Go ahead.
Jessica Ruffin, NASCAR.com. You mentioned that you had during the recovery process, your senses were heightened, your sense of smell was crazy. Do you have any fears with racing being such a stimulating situation? Do you have any fears about it being like almost overwhelming when you do get back in the car?
That's an interesting question. I think that's obviously something that I've thought about before, just what that would be like. I've been trying to do as much as I can at home, just with simulation computer games and stuff like that. And actually, the Duesenberry Martin Racing guys gave me a pretty cool setup to practice on there. So just the visuals themselves of racing with other cars, even in a virtual world like that, I think it helps. Just the strain on your eyes, even just from a computer, in a real sense, obviously it's different, but I think that's definitely going to be an interesting piece of it for sure. But I honestly can't tell you what it's going to be like until I do it.
All right, Matt. Well, we're thankful you're here today. We're glad to hear the good news, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of this season.
All right, thank you guys.